I am declaring a state of emergency in Ottawa Carleton.
This is hell frozen over.
Actually, we've cried, but we're alive.
Every time we hear freezing rain in the forecast in the next few months or maybe years, we'll get an eerie chill. We are unlikely to soon forget Ice Storm 98, an inconvenience for most in the city, an unprecedented calamity for those who live in the country. We will remember, though, that the true spirit of community, our community, crossed city streets and rural roads. Humanity's power is the real story of the storm of the century.
Trees, some of them that have been around for more than a century, felled in seconds under the weight of heavy ice.
I didn't hear a thing. It didn't crack, didn't sound like thunder, nothing. Just woke up and there it is.
A couple whose car is smashed is out to survey the damage. When a limb of the same tree also comes toppling down. Live hydro lines blocking roadways with no one around to clean them up because crews are having a tough time keeping up with all the calls.
Yeah, it's kind of sporadic. There's no specific area. It seems to be scattered across the city.
Like you, we've been hit by the storm, and if we appear to be a bit in the dark, we are now on emergency power.
He was born in the back of the truck.
That's right, a baby born in the back of a family truck. The ice preventing the mother from making it to hospital on time.
He ended up calling 911 when we reached Museum of Science and Technology, and he pulled in right under the lighthouse there, and that's where I gave birth.
All of eastern Ontario and western Quebec this time look like they will be getting significant rain. The freezing rain should be heavy at times, in fact.
It would be wise to stock up before the next wave of this storm arrives, and that could be soon.
Basically, they're looking for salt and sand mix, batteries, flashlights, kerosene, anything we can have, generators, anything that's going to give them some heat.
Brace yourself for more, even though many of us are still reeling from the first whack of a punishing ice storm. People on their way home tonight are driving into round 2 of the freezing rain. Hydro companies say that rain is threatening their efforts to restore power.
Many community centers are open during the day for those stuck without power. As of tonight, 7 of them will be open 24 hours a day.
A woman and 5 children walking down a street a half an hour south of Ottawa. Just 2 are her own.
This is the neighbor's boy. They had supper with us last night, and these 2 are another neighbors, and they don't have a wood stove, no heat. So
Louise Quinn hasn't had any power at her home in 2 days.
Okay.
But she has heat and makeshift light.
We're the brightest lit house on the street.
And with others around her with a lot less, she figures, why not help out?
The benefit in the rural area is the actual volunteerism, is the neighborliness, the ability of people to get out and help one another.
From the dairy farmers sharing portable power to make sure cows get milked.
As long as we got diesel fuel, I guess we got power.
To the store owner who handed over his keys to the local fire department.
Why not? You can do that here.
Yeah.
Good evening. Ottawa's main highway is closed indefinitely. The Queensway was shut down from Eagleson to Innes Road about 9:30 tonight after freezing rain turned to glare ice and accidents began piling up. JJ Clark is tracking the weather system for us. How bad is it going to get, JJ?
We're expecting the freezing rain to intensify within the next few hours.
Ottawa Carleton Hydro companies have called in reinforcements. These workers are handling wires that carry more than 13,000 volts. That doesn't make them nervous. What does? Trees snapping like twigs all around them.
As hard as these crews are working, it may just be the tip of the iceberg. As ice thickens and winds pick up, Hydro employees fear the bulk of the work may still be ahead.
A truly extraordinary storm, and now extraordinary measures to deal with it. To give you an idea, the capital's main link to Montreal, Highway 417, is closed from the split to the Quebec border. Mid-morning, an unprecedented step.
I am declaring, as of 10 a.m. this morning, a state of emergency in Ottawa Carleton.
Meanwhile, the freezing rain has taken its toll on trees and traffic lights in Brockville, which today resisted calling a state of emergency.
In Kingston, close to 75% of the area remains in the dark. That's because Ontario's Hydro's 2 main lines are down.
In Prescott, a short drive down the 401, the international bridge linking Canada with northern New York State was closed by state troopers at 9 this morning.
Hundreds of hydro teams are working around the clock to restore power and prevent more outages. This South Ottawa neighborhood is among the worst hit.
Every street we go is just damage. Trying to answer the customers' needs, and we just tell them we're doing the best we can, and it'll be on when it gets on.
Scrape away the ice and snow, and this is what you'll find. Thousands of area residents dealing as best they can with the massive power outs.
Yeah, they're great.
But the blackout is just dandy with 3-year-old Dennis. Who needs electricity when you have a flashlight and a box?
Good evening. The military is on its way. We have word tonight. Hundreds of troops will arrive in the capital region on Friday.
1,407 soldiers from the 2 Canadian Mechanized Brigade in Petawawa arrived late this morning.
We'll be removing trees and letting the hydro guys fix lines and stuff. I like doing this because it's better than going on a tour, really, because you're helping out your own country.
And there's an enormous amount of help needed, especially in rural areas of the capital region.
We found conditions in the outlying townships particularly to be much more difficult than we had first imagined. Even the most resilient country folk are buckling under a crisis that's unlike anything they've seen before. Near Van Cleek Hill, hydro poles have toppled like toothpicks. Farmers are sharing generators that are running 24 hours a day. It's the only way to milk the cows. These precious machines are showing signs of strain.
Well, that's the thing, we don't know how long they're going to last.
Hydro towers bowed down in a twisted mess under the weight of the storm. 15 towers in all west of Cornwall, where 23,000 residents are still without power.
No heat, no light since Tuesday. I just came in today. I couldn't take it no more.
Coming to grips with the extent of the damage, Ice Storm 98 continues. First, some well-deserved thanks.
I have to be thankful to so many families that offered their homes to us.
Well, the Army, they came in, they visited us this morning, making sure everybody's okay, and relatives in Ottawa, they're making meals and they're bringing it down to the country.
But everybody here has been really good to us. They're supplying us with diapers and all the food we need.
At the aftermath of what's being called the storm of the century. These are your homes, farms, and the communities of your friends, families, and neighbors. In eastern Ontario and West Quebec, the storm is over. The devastation, far from over. There's still a state of emergency. Tens of thousands of people are still without power. The picturesque countryside now littered with downed power lines and crushed hydro towers. The blackout now threatens homes and livelihoods, and to make matters worse, temperatures are dropping. Virtually no one east of Ottawa has power tonight, and it's going to be days, even weeks in some areas before hydro is finally restored.
Just a half hour from the capital, people are living day to day.
Just a mammoth amount of recovery.
Hour to hour. Emergency shelters are quickly becoming the lifelines of small communities.
Electricity, I mean, we are freezing our butts.
Hundreds of people are being forced to eat and sleep in these places.
Oh, it's getting a little antsy.
With people beginning to realize their crisis may be only beginning.
In Pakenham, west of Ottawa, listen and you'll hear a forest dying. Like gunfire, the sound of maples falling. This is really tough to see.
Oh, it's awful.
Shirley Fulton's family has been running this sugar bush for 150 years. You shouldn't be able to see the sky here. There should be trees. It'll take 40 or 50 years for the bush to recover.
Isn't that incredible? I've never seen anything like this. It's like watching an old friend die.
We're looking at devastation that we've never seen before. We've got upwards of 2,000 poles that are down on the distribution side. On one transmission system alone, we're looking at 100 structures that are down. I mean, it's just, it's unbelievable. It really is.
The community is banding together, preparing for the battle ahead.
It's just unbelievable. It's just like you were in a war zone, really.
16,000 people in Osgood are planning to spend at least 10 more days without power. As temperatures drop, residents move from cold homes to community centers.
It's been quite an experience. I don't think any of us have ever gone through anything like it.
The rebuilding is underway, and in some places it's from ground zero. And as of tonight, about 81,000 homes and businesses in eastern Ontario are still without power. In West Quebec, the number tonight just under 40,000.
Gotta be thankful for the barbecues anyways.
Breakfast on the barbecue.
Well, the husband wants me to try winter camping, and this is giving me a taste of it.
While Donna cooks,
it's a never-ending process.
husband Mark continues to crank just to keep their new home above water. Hundreds in this tiny town have been forced into shelters, some relying on their faith, all keeping a very brave face. Power is back in the village of Winchester, and the Muir family has come home.
Now, our primary concern is taking the people that are still without power in the rural areas and taking them in.
At the emergency shelter in Winchester, the coffee is hot, and so are these seniors.
How'd you stay warm?
Are you kidding?
Most schools in the CJOH viewing area will be closed tomorrow and Tuesday. That includes schools in all...
It has been a massive relief effort involving hundreds of volunteers. This is an area with a large seniors population. Many have been evacuated to emergency shelters. Coping at home has become impossible.
The house is down to 40 degrees. It's too cold.
How are you doing?
Yes, me.
When you look at the massive damage, it really has been a huge challenge, and people have responded.
I don't think that it is proper for me to go until, everything is in place.
It is by no means over for hundreds of thousands who are still without power tonight, especially those in our rural areas who may wait many more days in shelters that are now filling up.
Right, Max. It was a very cold night last night for those who did not have heat or hydro.
96-year-old Elizabeth Proctor insists she's okay.
I don't want to go to a shelter because I have some things I have to attend to with my health. I'm 96 years old and never seen such a storm.
Some people in West Quebec are facing a sad anniversary today, 1 week without power. The battle with the trees and power lines is slowly being won. Hydro crews in Aylmer have victory in sight.
I'm pleased to report tonight there is a glimmer of light in Manotick. Some of the lights have come back on just in the last hour.
This is usually one of Kingston's most serene parks. Now that serenity is replaced with the sounds of chainsaws, while the scenery is broken underfoot.
We're going to have to continue to rebuild the electrical infrastructure of this community.
300 poles are down here, leaving dozens of farmers struggling to survive. TV and radio communication has been infrequent.
When the temperature drops day by day, they start to come in.
The children, the elderly, the sick.
We've had people in here crying.
They're all in it together at this place.
Rich, poor, it doesn't matter, we're all the same.
With many gone from their homes, police and the military are out all night patrolling the streets of small towns.
We'll just ensure that the places are still safe and sound.
It's lights out at the shelter, but sleeping is going to be tough.
Not even a divorce was this tough.
A woman in temperatures hovering near -20 finally gives in to the cold.
This is hell frozen over, actually. This is what it is.
Yeah, sure, we've cried, but we're alive.
And while people in the cities start to rebuild, people in the country learn they have the power to cope. Ice Storm 98 continues. First, some words of thanks.
Just thanks a lot, because it was throughout all those people, the people that would come in at midnight and offer to drive and help us find medications in people's homes, things like that just made a big difference.
continues for tens of thousands of rural residents, but hard work, perseverance, and goodwill are continuing to get the people of Eastern Ontario and West Quebec back on their feet.
And still more than a week, power should be restored in Chrysler, Embrun, Edwards, Limoges.
People have got to understand that folks like Ontario Hydro and all the other agencies are doing absolutely everything possible with all the assistance possible, but it's going to take some time. The devastation is awesome.
Let's clear up one misconception. The state of emergency is still in effect in the village.
Yes, it is. It certainly is. We still need assistance from the service, the Army men.
Our Terry Marcotte is with the troops. Terry, what are they finding?
Mike, it's an absolutely desperate situation for a lot of people out here. You've got people who have been totally cut off from the outside world.
After complaints from customers about the lack of information and help, Ontario Hydro officials and government leaders are admitting they should have done a better job and done it faster.
As far as I'm concerned, I guess I didn't realize the gravity of this thing a week ago.
Rural residents have expressed frustration over being left in the dark. Some haven't seen a hydro crew in their area since power went out a week ago.
I'm okay, but I've got neighbors that aren't.
Neighboring utilities are now helping. Their early offers were not accepted by Ontario Hydro. 900 hydro workers are now on the job.
And how cold might it get tonight? JJ is in the PM.
Unfortunately, the temperature is going to continue to tumble to minus 19 degrees.
Just coming around to make sure everybody's doing okay.
Police don't have to check up on Bill Fenton. He's kept his house warm for 40 years. A little ice and no power isn't about to stop him.
Well, I just go from room to room and
torch the place. In Long Sault and surrounding areas just west of Cornwall, half the residents are powerless, literally. OPP are working 24 hours a day, handing out parkas, hats, and generators. And in Alexandria, southeast of Ottawa, John McDonald knows how to generate friends. The town's former Man of the Year heats his house at night, and then he lends his generator to 10 friends.
So we just push the generator around a toboggan and go from house to house, give them each a few hours, and then we start over again.
Let there be light. After 8 days, finally, for this family, the dark ages are over. They've spent the last hour twisting knobs and flicking switches. The sound of a flushing toilet never sounded sweeter.
We just be spending a lot of time at a fireplace to keep warm.
It's wonderful to know that we can come home.
A couple nights ago, we had 37 people bedded down for the night.
And how many meals would you say you've served?
1,000 to 1,200 a day.
Almost as many as McDonald's, eh?
Exactly.
The ice storm, however, has taken another life. The death toll stands at least 16.
Ontario Hydro continues damage control here and here.
We are moving an awful lot faster.
This is the first time we've ever heard anything directly from a representative of Ontario Hydro.
Does it make you feel any better?
No.
Responding to criticism, the utility has finally sent out public relations teams.
There is a need to get out and to let people know that we know they're still suffering.
There are now 1,400 people rebuilding power lines in Eastern Ontario.
The branch broke off there, hit the top roof, and the ice came down and hit the other roof and came down and hit our cars.
But you won't find Elaine complaining or even frowning. Instead, she's been spending 10 hours a day at the Lancaster Emergency Shelter northwest of Cornwall, handing out candles and shedding her own light.
For me, myself, it's very important that I'm around with people because otherwise I would get depressed. And you have to keep going, and then you see people over there that's really worse off than you are. You know, we'll get another car someday, I hope.
Further west in Finch, shelters were filled with lots of babes, babysitters who know how to serve and protect. I guess part of the job right now, just going from town to town and talking to people, is to be soothing, if nothing else.
That's right. And we're checking door to door, and people like to know you're out there and checking on them.
Right now, we need just a lot of laughter. Cheer. I think there's going to be a light at the end of the tunnel. It looks, you know, everybody says that we're going to get electricity maybe in a day or so or a week, so we'll keep our fingers crossed. Okay. But we're doing great.
Bruce Kennedy and his dairy herd were early casualties of the ice storm. A downed hydro line sent power through his barn, killing 13 cows. This cow hasn't been able to stand since, and Kennedy expects she'll have to be put down.
I had a cow who was just giving birth to a little one, and she was laying down. I said, well, she's gonna be all right, eh? When I came back in the second time, she was dead.
It could take Eastern Ontario's 2,000 dairy farmers 8 months to restore the milk production lost during the blackout.
It's going to be devastation, really, because there's lost income, extra costs, and a lot of guys are really under stress now. They're looking at there's a possibility of losing their farms.
There's an added urgency for the hydro workers out here. Power is not a matter of convenience, but of survival.
Well, you just had your power restored.
Yes,
and
at 5 o'clock last night.
And you're very anxious to make it home, I bet.
Well, he's just jumping for joy.
Walter, is that true? Have you been jumping for joy?
Not too high.
This is all that's left of Jeff Hoogstein's dream home. He was helping a neighbor last night and came home to smoke and flames. The fireplace that's been providing heat for the past 8 days was faulty. Now a family of 7 is left with nothing.
Maybe it hasn't sunk in yet, I don't know.
All around, this has been a bad day. First the fire, then power that was restored only days ago has been lost again.
The generators that provide power in times of emergency have already been passed on to other communities.
It's bitterly cold in the wide open fields where soldiers and hydro crews are working.
It's terrible, terrible. The men are having one heck of a time keeping warm.
Those who had power and lost it take some pleasure in knowing their problems shouldn't last very long. Others are settling in for the long haul, at least another week, while others still are wondering if it can get any worse.
Before the OPP, before the soldiers, they were the first manning the front lines. Usually firefighters, often volunteers, always doing whatever it takes. This man used to be a Zamboni driver.
What's the biggest difference between driving a Zamboni and driving a fire truck?
Well, this one doesn't handle quite as good on ice, that's for sure.
Triumph, hope, and frustration as people find the power to cope. Ice Storm 98 continues.
We'd like to thank all the husbands whose families were displaced from the storm in other communities for sticking around and running generators at night from home to keep people's pipes from freezing and to keep people warm.
For the family, huh?
This is just one morning's worth of donations at a local fire station. Volunteer Bill Driscoll helps the Army do the pickups.
They gave me something to do, and I'm telling you, it feels so great to be able to get out and help somebody. And
Bill's been without power for 11 days. The community donations are sorted at this Army warehouse. One item still in short supply, pre-mixed baby formula.
Something like this brings out both the best and the worst in people. Fortunately, we're seeing the best.
There are still significant numbers of people in our urban community who really do not appreciate the pressures, the duress that our rural community is under.
Almost 2 weeks, no school, not much to do.
No TV.
Routines have been shattered, power lines still down all over the place, towns littered with busted trees.
I cry inside because of all the trees, because I have a 100-year-old tree in my backyard, and it's dead. I think the trees are crying when they're broken.
This is the water that's out of the hot water tank.
Some of the water has come from the tank, some from Mother Nature. Most of it goes down here when nature calls.
So has it been a hardship at all?
Not really. No, we've it's sort of a more like a challenge.
In fact, the major concern around White Lake has been access, with hundreds of trees blocking the road. That's where the military came in.
Everybody's hoping that nothing hits again, because if anything hits again, this is going to be a real nightmare.
Soldiers visited people in this area around Calabogie and Burnstown too. What they found was a self-sufficient lot.
I think that the children are the ones that are suffering the most, actually, because even if they are at home with their families, they've lost everything that's familiar to them.
My parents are like dead tired, and I just feel really bad because they're just always here. There's lots of other people to help, but they have to be here.
Here is one of the dozens of emergency shelters around the region, where volunteers and children's entertainers are coming forward, trying at least to keep the younger ones occupied. Older kids are coming to work to be part of the rebuilding of their communities.
Food for the family, huh? There's no task too small for members of the Royal Canadian Regiment's 3rd Battalion. How much sleep you got last night, soldier?
Probably about 3 hours.
More than 600 soldiers have come to this tiny eastern Ontario town to help several thousand people survive without power.
I think there's just been a godsend for all the people in the area.
You're sitting right across from her, and she has power, and you don't.
It's true what they say, the power people and we're the powerless.
It's a tale of two villages. Downtown Merrickville twinkles in the night, while only 5 minutes away, rural Merrickville is black.
Mark Wheeler was born into the maple sugar business. His father was too. Now as he looks at 100-year-old trees at his sugar bush just west of Perth, he sees his family's livelihood and pride in peril.
It's like seeing a friend being wounded in battle. It's not pretty and it's not fun.
Simple images, simple stories. It's part of a weekend getaway to the capital for youths from some of the hardest hit areas southeast of Ottawa. A break for them, a chance for some warmth, hot food, and art therapy. The power of healing is in their crayons.
Our village was wonderful. Now it's all finished, ruined.
While Nicholas and his family are in Ottawa, his aunt and uncle are taking care of their house.
Okay, you can try the light, see if it works now.
Just 2 minutes ago, the power came back. When Nicholas's brother Zachary wakes up, finally, after 11 days, he'll be reunited with his friends Simba and Pumbaa.
14 hours a day, 9 days in a row, and no weekend in sight. These hydro workers from Scarborough are empowering the powerless, just outside North Gore, south of Ottawa, and they've become heroes.
Everybody's standing around, and a little guy, about 9 years old, standing next to his dad, and we're all huddled around him, and we're standing there talking to him, and some way between the conversation, he turned to his dad, and he tugged on his coattail, and he said, "Dad, I want to be a lineman." And we just thought that was the greatest thing in the world.
An old woman then, she said one of our neighbours, see us drive by, see Toronto Hydro, stick on the side, and the guy started crying, an older fella, because he couldn't believe he came all the way up here to help out.
This is what we've been waiting for.
Residents who can now see the workers after 2 weeks of darkness are ecstatic.
I plan on having a good cry very shortly. It's been a long 2 weeks.
For many, these guys are the cavalry, but even the cavalry is starting to feel the exhaustion and the stress.
You know, we'd like to go back home, but there's a lot of work here that we like to do as well. We're professionals and we're proud to be here.
The Salvation Army's mobile kitchen was in North Augusta today, where volunteers are offering close to 1,000 meals every day. About half of its 8,000 residents are still without power, but the end is in sight. Hydro officials say everyone should be online by Thursday. Residents say they don't know what they do without all of the volunteers and the help.
From what I see every day, it gets better and better and better as far as people pulling together, and that's the way it is, I guess. It has to be.
The Army has been called upon to help throughout the ice storm ordeal. Today may have been their weirdest assignment. Soldiers near Kempville were called to check on a llama and emu farm. Tree damage injured a few of the rare animals, so troops made sure they were okay. The troops say they respond to any call for help.
For some, hearing this sound for 10 days straight could drive you crazy. In Apple Hill, east of the capital in Glengarry County, it's keeping people sane.
I like that. At least we don't freeze.
Here, it's harder to find happy faces. The Plamondon family fights frustration and tears. 2 weeks without power, at least a week to wait.
Oh, emotionally. It's really, really tough, but I mean, like I said, we try our best. That's all we can do.
From the power to cope to the courage to conquer, Ice Storm 98 continues. First, some thanks.
To everyone that has came forth in this devastating experience and helped us through it, and we're just extremely grateful for everyone's help, and thank you very much.
This is a story still being written, with thousands in Ontario and Quebec still holding their breath, waiting for power to return. Newsline's Terry Marcotte now on the power of people to not only cope, but to conquer.
Nearly 3 weeks since the rain started to fall and the trees and the hydro lines began snapping, there are still people needing meals and warmth, still families living without hydro.
We're exhausted because we're up every hour and a half, 2 hours to put wood on the fireplace. So we haven't slept in 2 weeks.
It's the people in small towns, on lonely back roads, who've suffered the most through this and continue to suffer.
What does it take to cope? Mostly patience. Mostly patience, I think.
For patience, how about dairy farmer Paul Villeneuve? We met him long before sunup during week 1 without power, milking when he should have been sleeping.
We're coping better than most. We're getting by.
2 weeks later, still no power at his place, and he's still getting by with hardly a complaint.
It's been an ordeal, but you just have to learn to cope. I mean, what are you going to do? You have animals to look after. You have to look after them, so you have to deal with it and deal with it as best and as quickly as possible.
So he bought a generator, and his cows are fine, every one of them. This has been a test of the human spirit, an unthinkable scenario not that long ago. Week after week, in the heart of winter, no power. The human spirit, it seems, is in much better shape than anyone ever imagined. Take this barber shop, Main Street, Alexandria, closed a week and a half. The customers, from this farmer who lost 13 cows to electrocution, to the town cop, to the owner of the place, no one escaped.
Had 2 weeks in Costa Rica before I came home, and then I came home to this, and I had 2 weeks of this. I think somebody was getting even with me.
And every one of them learned something from it.
I made people realize how vulnerable we are, you know. No, I certainly wouldn't want to see another one, I tell you that.
You realize how good people are out there, and you just wanted to help out, and it was great.
A storm like no other that brought hardship and suffering, yes, but it also unearthed the spirit of giving, with thousands of people everywhere pitching in to pull people through.
I think families are going to grow more closer because of it. I think the whole community is growing closer because of it.
You ask yourself, well, you know, without a situation of this magnitude, would this have happened in terms of people helping people?
Those who have lived through it, those who are still living through it, say adversity somehow has brought out the best in people.
I think it's everybody's working together and enjoying it.
It's made people far more human and realize that what we can do for each other.
The destruction, beyond question. But just take a look at how people responded.
Most of them are pretty relaxed. They're not, you'd think they'd go stir crazy, but they haven't yet.
Day after day, they've been supporting each other, sharing stories, and pulling through.
We learn a lot of things about each other, like of the different people in the community that we just meet.
Everyone helps.
If you're in trouble, I mean, they'll be there to help you. And that's what's happened here, you know. Everybody just pitched in and that's it.
There have been homes destroyed by fire, human life lost, cattle too sick to survive, forests destroyed.
I've cried inside. I cry inside because of all the trees, because I have a 100-year-old tree in my backyard, and it's dead.
But even people who lost all their material belongings haven't lost their spirit.
It is tragic, but at the same time, it pulls a lot of people together, and we've really appreciated that here.
There is a tomorrow in all of this, people are discovering. Even in villages without power, normal life is returning, with school kids being encouraged to talk about the storm of the century. After all, they too are survivors.
It's mostly, you hear like all about people helping each other, and I find that really touching because like usually you don't hear that. Like it's just people fighting usually.
They took the very worst of nature and dished it right back, and they did it together.
And in the aftermath of nature's wrath, we have a ton of thank you notes to send. We have some learning to do, some healing to ensure. We don't have to doubt the indomitable spirit of goodwill and community in our corner of Canada.
when you're down and troubled and you need a helping hand, and nothing, whoa, nothing is going right. Close your eyes and think of me, and soon I will be there to brighten up even your darkest night. You just call up my name, and you know wherever I am, I'll come running, oh yeah, baby, to see you again. Winter, spring, summer or fall, now all you got to do is call, and I'll be there, yeah, yeah, yeah. You've got a friend.